What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with some Detroit Lions news, man. Cut day has begun. I'm going to call this cut day because between now and Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, the Lions need to cut their roster down to 53 players. And those cuts, they have begun. So let's get it started.
Way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. And we have a couple of names to update you on today for Lions cuts. Now, we're going to kind of do this throughout the day. I don't really know how it's going to be formatted. It's probably just going to be random. You know, if I get like one name, that's not like a huge surprise, but it's just one. I may wait a little bit to see if we get a couple more to release that to you guys. But it's just kind of going to be out throughout the day. My goal is to make these videos not super long. I know they usually are, but this one's not supposed to be long. This isn't a breakdown. We can do that after the cuts are done, but I want to try to stay on top of this the best I can and get the information out to you guys as fast as possible. Probably the headline of this, or the, whatever you want to call it, the headline of this video is that the Detroit Lions have released receiver Prashad Perriman. They wasted no time to do this. I mean, at least to get it reported. Maybe they've done other guys, but they wasted no time to report that the Lions have released Prashad Perriman. Now, honestly, this one isn't that surprising. And, yesterday when I was doing my 53-man roster projection, I'm clear right now I'm 0 for 2. So this is an L. But anyways, the Prashad Perriman situation, I went back and forth. I didn't know how the Lions were going to approach that, what they felt. But it is very fair that the Lions released Prashad Perriman, in my opinion, because like the Lions said, like Dan Campbell said, we want guys that we can trust. Make plays, get separation, block, but we want guys that we can trust, simply put. And when he was speaking on Tom Kennedy, they said we can trust Tom Kennedy right now. When we first signed him, I wouldn't have thought he would get cut. But at this point, it's not super surprising. Unfortunately, he's missed a lot of time during the offseason, so he's been very in and out. It's kind of hurt the ability to see him on the field consistently. And then we know he misses the beginning of preseason. He comes into the first game, really doesn't get many targets. And then this past game, they try to get him the ball. And unfortunately, he had the one drop over the middle. Maybe if he catches that, we're in a different spot. Maybe it does. Maybe it's like, bam, you got to make that play when the opportunity is there. Did get to see them consistently. Perriman was kind of a wild card because he didn't really get to see him that much in practice. So you had to judge a lot on these games. Tom Kennedy, he did his thing. He went out there, he earned it. And if the Lions want to keep Kennedy around for that reason, I love it. It means that they're giving guys opportunities. It doesn't matter if you got this, $2 million guaranteed. That doesn't matter. All right, if you go out there and earn it, you can get a spot on this team. Love that fact that it's not like you're coming in as like, oh, I can't beat this guy out because he got paid. Like, no, you can. You definitely can. Now, it wasn't a lot, but you can. So I do like that side of it. It's unfortunate because I think Prashad Perriman does have a lot of talent. I think this is the type of receiver that the Lions wanted. I think it would have been very helpful for us, but it is probably the right decision to do it. I wasn't sure if the Lions would do it or not, but they have. So Prashad Perriman has been released. Wishing him the best of luck going forward. It's unfortunate that this did not work out, but it just didn't. This opens the spot for at least one more receiver, we got to believe. I mean, we think we know about 4 locks. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right with these 4, okay? Maybe not. Tyrell Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Khalif, Raymond, and Quintez Cephas. I think those 4 are in, and there's no surprises there. But then if the Lions go with 5 receivers, which is probably the least amount they would keep, it then comes down to guys like Tom Kennedy. But I'm also going to throw in an interesting option here, Geronimo Allison. We've talked about him, but I haven't been able to bring myself to say the Lions will keep Geronimo Allison. I think he's deserving. He has the size. Maybe he doesn't have the speed, but he's played well enough at that X receiver position, giving you some of that outside ability where I think he could definitely earn a role. The Lions didn't even sign this guy or Kennedy. He didn't come out and send the role on fire or anything like that. But he's done enough, and then when you see him in the preseason, he's stepped up when they've needed him most, and he's played a lot of snaps, plus some special teams where we've seen him on that as well. With this receiver position, according to Dan Campbell, they may keep 5. So it doesn't sound like 6 will be the spot. And, with this cut, they're also really keeping an eye on the waiver wire. They said Sunday they dove into it, and he said Kennedy probably right now has the inside, look of probably being the receiver to actually make this team. But they haven't made that decision, but they felt that it was worth keeping him around for an extra day. Today was practice. Tomorrow is going to be practice. So they're going to see them there. So they haven't made the final decision there of whether it's going to be Tom Kennedy or not, but I feel like he's done enough to keep him around. So it sounds as if 5 receivers is probably going to be the move, and Kennedy's probably going to be the last guy in. Releasing cornerback Michael Ford Jr. Yeah, I was trying to make that segue good. I don't know if these correspond at all, but the Lions have released Mike Ford Jr., and this one surprises me. I don't love this. Right off the report, I'm like, Wait, what? Wait, what? We released Mike Ford? I'm like, why did we release Mike Ford? I didn't think this would happen. There was like a little part of me that like days ago was like, well, you know, he's getting a lot of snaps. He's playing kind of late. Maybe, like, no way. Because Mike Ford Jr., to me, has done a lot of things right so far this offseason. We've seen him consistently on the field. He's brought ridiculous energy throughout practice, which I've loved. All right, he basically wins the nickel role over Corn Elder, who you signed this offseason until he's injured. Then when Dunbar gets released because he's not showing up to practice, you slide him to outside cornerback. Now, does he struggle a little bit at first? Yes, okay. But as preseason goes on, we get to this final preseason game. He played really well aside from the 60-yard bomb. Maybe that did him in. I don't know, but I thought he did a lot of things right for the Lions. And it's not like it's some kind of old vet that Lions are hanging on to. The guy's 26 years old, and they re-signed him this offseason. So this one definitely surprises me. But it does seem very plausible that the Lions are doing this to hold on to one of these young cornerbacks that they like. And to me, it seems like it's going to be Bobby Price if they do it. He's right. We do have a lot of young guys. Not even just Iffy, but AJ Parker, Jerry Jacobs, Bobby Price. A lot of young dudes here. And he's like, man, we got a lot of young guys. We got a lot of talent. And we want to go forward and work with these guys. You know, they give us a lot on special teams. Bill Parcells, who has had an influence, he's like, if you're a high draft pick, you should always get 2 years in a training camp. And because you can mature during that time, they're young. So this could be a shot for a guy like Jacobs to possibly make the team, a player like that, potentially a Bobby Price. That'd be really cool to see them make the team, but they feel like the growth and development has been there, so it may be worth it. Also, side note, Logan Stenberg, I know this doesn't have anything to do with it, but he said Logan Stenberg, we like where he's coming along. It sounds like Logan's going to be part of the team going forward. He will make this 53-man roster, but they like how he's been improving. All right, the thing with Mike Ford is that he brings a lot. He brings slot, outside versatility, and he's the top gunner for your team. So you are losing a pretty good amount. Couple notes, though. He is only 6 foot. He is only 198. He's not like the big cornerback that I think the Lions have been really going after, especially if they keep Bobby Price and continue that streak of going after those corners. Even though he did hit hard, you know, I'll give him that. He did hit hard. Like, he was smacking some people. He set the tone. I don't love this, but it does seem like it's probably opening up a spot for a young guy here. I look at the young guys this could open a spot for. Number one, Bobby Price. The guy's 6 foot. The guy is 6'4", 205. He went from safety to outside cornerback. He brings speed, athleticism. He's been playing very low in these preseason games. Last game was probably his better game. He was getting involved more in the run game. He did allow a couple completions, but he also made some plays on the football. He's been a little bit like this because he's super raw. He's never even played outside corner going back to high school. He played quarterback and safety. So this is very new to him. But it could open a spot because he's also been getting gunner reps, and the Lions might want to, you know, give him that opportunity. And even Aubrey Pleasant said, you know, when it comes down to cuts, versatility, because they feel like he can play safety and cornerback. He's got the size and special teams ability. You know, that's huge when it comes down to these cuts. So he could be an option. And also possibly a Jerry Jacobs, but even Jacobs has versatility. I mean, he started coming in an outside cornerback. We saw him take a couple of reps at slot cornerback in this past game because he's done that in the past, so it's not like it's new to him. And he's been cross-training at safety. Plus, we've seen some special teams reps where he's made his name heard multiple times. He just had a couple of flags there because, well, the one, I mean, he just bopped that guy. I was like, oh, snap, set the tone, okay? So even he as well has that versatility within his game. If the Lions can find a spot for Jacobs, I would be absolutely hyped. I mean, that'd be so awesome. I hope that happens. I hope it does. I know he's young, but like Campbell said, you know, they may not be the best right now, but basically he feels like they have a real high ceiling. So I think that'd be pretty sweet. I think that'd be pretty sweet if you make the team. I hope he does. You all expected to make it, and there's going to be guys that make this team that everybody wrote off, and this could be one of them. Michael Ford Jr. was only on that 1-year deal. Parker has 3 years left. Jerry Jacobs has 3 years left. It is Bobby Price last year of his deal, if that means anything. I mean, they're cheap deals. So now truly the Detroit Lions' first wave of cuts is in the books. Okay, now all of these players I'm about to go through have been waived, which means they are going to hit the waiver wires for the next 24 hours, so they'll have an opportunity to be claimed by other teams. The only clean release that we actually made was Prashad Perriman, so he's going to hit free agency, but the rest of these, because of their age, they're going to hit the waiver wire, and they're going to have a chance to be claimed. I wouldn't say there's a lot of surprises here, but there maybe is one. Actually, I definitely think there is one. So let's get into it, okay? The players that have been waived, and also Michael Ford Jr. is a part of this, by the way, because of his age, but we've already talked about him. First off, Victor Bolden Jr. Now, Victor Bolden Jr., I mean, the word was he was having a pretty good training camp. I don't know if he stuck out to me like some other people were saying, but, you know, he was having a solid training camp, in all fairness. However, the preseason, it just started out slow. He had the drop. He had technically two drops, but the first one, I'm not going to put it on him too much, but he had the drop, and then he had the muff punt, and it was like, oh, he's competing for possibly a punt returner job, and then that kind of went away. Kennedy kind of became the guy, and then we see his snap counts go down, and then the final preseason game, they were trying to give him some looks. I think he had 2 receptions for like 4 yards. He caught a bubble screen. He caught a couple of short things, but it really wasn't anything down the field. They took some shots to him. They weren't able to capitalize. Maybe not to fault of his own because the passes weren't great, but just unable to make those plays down the field. It was like they're trying to give him another opportunity. They're really showing up throughout the preseason. Miles Brown. Now, Miles Brown has played well. Brown has played really well, at least considering expectations throughout the entire preseason. Okay, I think he has the 5th highest PFF grade offensively, but I don't worry about that too, or defensively. I don't worry about that too much. He would go to battle. He would get low. I mean, he had a nice bend. It was nice to watch him play. He could make plays in the backfield. He had a little bit of pass rush upside. He had some ability moving along the defensive line to about the 0 tech, probably the widest of a 3 tech. Had size. The Lions brought him in with P.J. Johnson when John Fettuccine was hurt. They needed some size, guys to battle. And credit to Miles Brown. P.J. Johnson didn't last the entire time, but Miles Brown did. He lasted the entire preseason. He battled, but in this last game, we got to see Fettuccine come back, did about 8 snaps, and he's looked good throughout training camp, so they now have waived Miles Brown. Wishing him the best of luck. This possibly could be someone the Lions try to get back on the practice squad. It wouldn't surprise me because he did play well, and I think this is one of those players the Lions would like to have, but I think he'll end up getting claimed. If any team's paying attention to the film of our games, he'll probably end up getting claimed by somebody that needs a nose tackle like that with some ability to get downhill. Elijah Holder, another one not super surprising either. Elijah Holder, the safety, he kind of seemed like the last safety, to be honest. I mean, he seemed like he was behind Jalen Elliott and CJ Moore, which is still up for battle. We'll see who gets that. And then we had Dean Marlowe and, of course, the 2 starters. Elijah Holder kind of seemed like he was at the bottom of that. But again, he was another guy that stuck out through the entire preseason. And I would say he had his moments. He had his good moments. He had his bad moments, But he had some good moments as well. I think he was really picking up the safety position and what was asked of him. So this could be someone the Lions try to get back on, the practice squad as well. But I just did not see a spot for him on this team with where the safety position was at. Evan Heim. This is like the 3rd string center. And the Lions wanted to give him more reps in this, last week game. They wanted to get him more center reps. But it kind of became Evan Brown's job because even in this last week, it still was Evan Brown who took more snaps at center. It kind of became his job. And Evan Heim, I don't even think he played in week 2 of the preseason because Evan Brown kind of took that over. I mean, when Evan Heim did play at center, they moved Evan Brown to guard. But, I mean, it was just like, okay, they're rocking with Evan Brown. If they keep it back as center, it seems like it's going to be Brown. Damian Ratley, all right? Again, I mean, none of these are super surprising. Ratley was kind of almost a little bit in the Perriman boat, sort of, because Ratley, we haven't seen him a ton this offseason, so it's kind of hard to get a good gauge of him. We've seen him a lot off to the side, just kind of running, not really in pads. And then when the practice squad rolls around, I don't even know if he had a reception the entire preseason because he missed some preseason time. We saw him in this past game. He was on the field a solid amount of times, in between 10 to 20 snaps. I can't remember the exact number, but he didn't really produce anything on the field, so he has also been waived. Next couple of guys have a slightly different designation as they have been placed on the waived injured list, which is kind of like just being waived, but the difference is when you're waived injured, of course, you're dealing with an injury, and if no one claims these players because they're dealing with that injury, the team has the option to put him onto their injury reserve. They have the option to bring him back, put him on their injury reserve. So that is something to keep an eye out with this. If they don't want to do that, they can reach an injury settlement and the player can become a free agent after they go through claims, or they could be just simply claimed by another team. Now, the one thing that I don't completely understand here is if they don't get claimed, they revert to IR, if they can be taken off that during the season. I'm thinking they probably could because it would be kind of like after roster cuts, maybe. They're back before 4 p.m. Eastern time Tuesday, then maybe we won't be able to take them off IR. I'm not completely sure with that one. I'm thinking that you probably can take them off because you did waive them at first and they kind of got back because no one claimed them. But we'll have to wait and see. Either way, there's 2 names here. First off, a Dan Skipper. All right, this is the offensive tackle. Really no surprise. The guy got carted off in our last game. So it was like, oh, snap, that's not good. So no shocker whatsoever there. I hate to see it for him, honestly, because he was battling for a backup tackle spot with Matt Nelson. And, he had at least a case for him because Nelson did struggle in one of our games big time. So he had a case. It's just unfortunate that he was carted off the field. You hate to see that at any preseason game, and that's what happened. So this one's not super surprising. He probably won't get claimed by any team because of the seriousness of the injury that he's dealing with. And then also Terrell Crosby. Now this one is pretty shocking. I'm going to be honest here. This one's pretty surprising. He did play in our last game. He didn't play super long though, but he did play. I need to keep Terrell Crosby around. He had a pretty rough debut, that's for sure, in this last preseason game. Maybe that had something to do with it as well. But, I mean, this is kind of surprising. We could potentially be losing Terrell Crosby here. I mean, look, our tackle play has not been that great throughout this preseason. Matt Nelson did bounce back, played a much better game, which is nice. I have to go back and watch Dan's presser because right now I'm just on the news. But I did see the quote that he said about Terrell Crosby. We didn't think he was one of our best guys. Oh, snap. Okay, that's interesting. That changes things up. So it's not even just like an injury thing. They don't think Terrell Crosby is one of their best guys. He said right now with the OL depth, we may have it or we may not right now. Basically, Matt Nelson, we know he's probably going to be here at this point because he's really the only backup tackle they have. There also is Darren Paulo as well. Maybe we surprise and keep Paulo. But they definitely didn't show a lot of love here with Terrell Crosby. And I guess that kind of goes back to the draft when they drafted Sewell. They didn't give, Crosby the shot at the starting tackle, which made sense. That one was understandable. But to keep him as a backup, I thought that's something they would do. We know he's dealing with that grade 1 hammy for a little while. But this kind of comes back to availability. For guys that have not been available that much, if you don't go out and prove it, and even though it's a small sample size, you're not safe. It's just simple as that. Now we have a lot of examples of it. Same thing with Crosby. Missed a lot of the offseason. Really didn't get to see him. Last regime did, but they didn't. So, working him at guard, working him at tackle, this way back in practice, comes out there, gets beat right away, and it's not the best debut, and they're just like, okay, we didn't think he's one of our best guys. Keep an eye on how that goes. This could open a spot for a possible Tommy Kramer. I think it's someone that Dan likes, and at this point, wouldn't shock me if he makes the team. A lot of teams like to keep 2 backup tackles, and I think Nelson's one. Will they go with Paulo? Could it be a different signing? Do they go with only 1 tackle throughout the initial cuts? Maybe 2 guards, Logan and Kramer? I could definitely see that. Maybe Evan Brown. Maybe they go with those 9 offensive linemen, and we'll see where the Lions go with this. So it means that everybody's got a chance, so everybody should be battling for spots because you are never safe. You always have to prove it. And being a former player, I think, for Dan Campbell and all these coaches, they understand that as well. That's how you want it as a player. You want to have to go out there and prove it because you want to be able to take someone's job. You don't want to come in and say, well, you're never going to beat Terrell Crosby. I mean, he's the backup, even if he plays bad. So it's like if he doesn't perform and I do, I can take your job. The thing with the tackle position is it just has not been great. Nelson did play a solid last game, so that's good. Plus, he did play some guard as well, so there is that slight versatility within his game. Maybe they feel good about him. They don't need to see him a ton because they put him out there like with the first reps, but I guess not. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Lions will address this, though. I think this spot's going to be addressed the way that Campbell worded it, and we'll keep an eye on it. If he does not get claimed by any team, which I think he will. If he doesn't get claimed, though, he could revert to our IR if the Lions want to put him back on there, and if they don't want to, they can release him on an injury settlement, and he'll be a free agent. But I also have another update, and this is that Tim Boyle, backup quarterback, has a broken thumb. Credit to him. I think he did play through some of this, right? Didn't he score the touchdown with a broken thumb? I may be off on my drives. But he has a broken thumb and apparently requires surgery. Now, according to Campbell, they don't think that he may not be out for the entire season. He may be able to come back at some point this season. But this move is huge because it could open up a roster spot depending on how the Lions attack this. They could keep him on the 53-man roster through cuts and then place him on IR afterwards, which means you can get him back sooner. Or they could put him on the injury reserve now before the cuts, and they could potentially have him out for the entire season. You can't bring him back at that point, but it does open up another spot through these cuts. Now, with Boyle, they said they're hopeful that they won't have to put him on IR. They want to keep him around, but he said it's a wide range right now between 2 weeks and a year. And he's like, what the heck is that? But they're hopeful they're going to keep him around. It's not something they could take off the table, potentially put him on IR before the cuts, but they're hopeful that they won't have to. Dan Campbell's like, but keep in mind, there's a lot of players that we probably are going to go through the season with that aren't on the roster right now. He said Brad Holmes is scouring the transaction wire just to keep an eye on guys that are becoming available. So look out for some signings as well. But as of now, those are the waves the Lions have made, plus Prashad Perriman being released and Michael Ford Jr. joining the wave list as well. But anyways, those are your roster updates. This is your first wave of cuts. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm